We are interviewing a truly remarkable man, Corey Good, age 45, originally from Texas, and you still live in Texas actually. And what he has done here is to come forward as an insider and share with me more information about what's really going on behind the scenes in these so-called secret government and secret military programs and their development and industrialization of our solar system. It's a truly remarkable story because I've interviewed dozens of insiders over the years with classifications sometimes 35 levels above the President of the United States. I've withheld about 90% of that information from the public because A, it could get people killed, B, I didn't want to release things that would then spoil me being able to figure out who the real insiders were. Corey came along and he not only knew the 90%, he had many other puzzle pieces that I had been looking for. I knew there was something that people weren't telling me, and it all came together. So Corey, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I understand that what you're about to tell us is so far out that people are going to have a really hard time accepting this, particularly if they don't already have a background in this. So instead of trying to hold them by the hand and take this slowly, let's just dive right in. And if you could really quickly give us an overview of your involvement with what this whole space program subject has been in your life.
Okay. For me, it started at the age of 6 years old when I was brought into what is known as the MyLab, some pronounce it MeLab programs. I was identified as an intuitive empath.
What does that mean exactly?
Intuitive, you have a deep intuition of things that are possibly about to happen.
So like a psychic ability.
Yeah, precognitive abilities. And empathic being you have a strong emotional connection with others around you. You can feel what they're feeling and connect with them emotionally. That was a skill set that was desired, and I was trained, and that was enhanced. And it was enhanced to the point to where I was around 12 or 13 years old, me and a few of the people that I was training with being brought into a program to where we were what they called IE support for the Earth delegation in a super federation. And this was a federation of a large amount of ET federations that met to discuss the grand experiment.
What was this experiment? What were these ETs doing?
There was a group of 40 human-looking ETs that were pretty much always present, and up to 60 at other times that were present. There were 22 genetic programs that were going on.
What does that mean? What's a genetic program?
Programs of them mixing their genetics and manipulating our genetics.
And that was ongoing?
Yes, it's ongoing right now. And this is what this was all about. And the Earth delegates had been trying to become a part of this for a long time. And they were finally able to get a seat. And as the intuitive empaths, when we were sitting there, we didn't know what was going on because a lot of what was going on was happening in this ancient ET language that's real monotone that we didn't understand. And some of what was going on telepathically. So we were just sitting there and we were given this device that was a glass smart pad that's kind of like an iPad that had access to the ET basically database. And we were told to keep our minds occupied by looking through all this material, and this also helped us with our intuitive empath abilities in detecting danger or deception.
What kind of stuff were you able to look at on these pads?
It was Mainly, they wanted us looking at the information about these 22 genetic experiments that were going on. But we had access to all types of other information. And depending on each of us, we all had our own interests. We would look at all kinds of information. And there's so much information that I looked at. It's almost like, looking back at your college days, all the books that you read and all the information you looked at, how much of it do you retain, like that? There was just so much information.
Did you ever have a question that you asked that you couldn't get the answer to, where it just says, I don't know?
No. I mean, you were pretty much given the information that was available. You would run across certain things that the human delegation and all that our group were not privy to. But pretty much all the information was open to us.
What did the screen look like? Was it similar to an iPad, or?
No, it looked like almost like a piece of plexiglass. Unremarkable if you saw it. If they would have dropped it out of the window and you found it in a field, you would pick it up and you would not know it was anything special. You would put it on your hand and you would have to activate it with a mental component, and it would pop up in your language. The information, you would access the database through your mind, and it would show what you wanted. It would show text, pictures, video, and the video and pictures were holographic in a way that it came off the screen a little bit. I mean, it didn't totally come out of the screen in holographic ways, some people would think. But it had like just this 3D depth kind of holographic view to it. And
could you still see your hand at that point underneath the glass?
No.
So it would darken first?
Right. It would totally go opaque or black or whatever before it started to produce images or text.
Did they have any buffers or security firewalls? If you ask certain questions, it tells you it's unauthorized or anything like that?
Well, like I said, very, very seldom did you get a screen that was all blue or something that showed that you couldn't get to. But pretty much everything was open. And we had these same devices on the research vessel that gave us access to our own databases.
So this is a prevalent technology once you get out into the space program.
Yes, and they have much larger screens that they use for conferences and demonstrations.
Well, obviously you encountered so much information on these pads. Was there any information that jumped out at you as being really significant, that really shocked you, even from what you had already learned by that point?
It was really interesting that the information was presented almost as if, going back to the college analogy, there were 22 term papers competing with each other, and each of these genetic experiment programs were presenting their information in that manner. They were somewhat competing with each other. They weren't all kind of hand in glove working together.
Did this involve these human-looking extraterrestrials?
Yes.
Splicing their DNA with ours, that kind of thing?
Yes. And manipulating our DNA. There was also a spiritual component. They are very much involved in a part of the experiment. It's not just them experimenting on us. They're a part of this grand experiment too.
Did they have a goal? Why are they doing this? Why do they care?
That I do not know. I don't know if they're doing it just because they can, if they're trying to create some sort of super being, but a lot of it didn't, why would they try to create mix all of their best genetics together and then manipulate us in our civilization to keep us down.
How long do you think this program has been in action for?
Of the 22 different programs, they've been going on for different lengths of time, but the genetic manipulation of what we are has been going back at least 250,000 years.
Wow.
But these programs they vary in their length from 5,000 going. They're all different lengths of time.
This doesn't sound like something that our secret Earth government or elected government would want these folks to be doing. Could we stop them?
I don't think so. I mean, this is something that we've just recently been able to beg to get a seat at their table, to be a part of the discussion.
So would these be negative-oriented extraterrestrials or more neutral? Not really the benevolent type?
It depends on your point of view. It's all amount of it's perspective. It's hard to say this group is positive, this group is negative out of all those groups, because they see what they're doing as a positive thing.
You mentioned on your website something called LOC. Could you tell us what that is?
The Lunar Operation Command is a facility on the backside of the moon that is a kind of a diplomatic, neutral facility that all the different space programs have access to and use. There are some people that are stationed there and work there, but it's more of a way station. People are coming and going from it all the time to go to their further out into the solar system and beyond, to go out to other stations, other bases, to go out to their assigned vessels.
Walk us through your actual story arc of how you go from your house and eventually end up on this research vessel out in our solar system. Just a brief overview of what that was like.
I was transported from my house in the middle of the night by conventional means to Carswell Air Force Base. Underneath Carswell Air Force Base, in a secret area of the base, there's an elevator that takes you very far down. And many people know about the tram system that runs underneath the United States.
I've heard insiders call it a sub-shuttle.
Yeah, it's a shuttle system. It's like a monorail going through a tube, and it's like a maglev and also in a vacuum tube. I was transported from there to another location, to where I was transported to the LOC through what some call Stargate type technology or portal technology.
Okay.
I ended up at the LOC, or Lunar Operation Command, and I was then put onto this manta-looking craft.
Like a stingray shape?
Yeah, like a stingray or manta ray looking craft, and with a bunch of other people. And then we were transported from the moon further out into the solar system.
So there was some sort of hangar at the Lunar Operations Command?
Yes, there's a series of hangars. This was the larger hangar.
Okay.
And
how big is this manta craft for conventional measurements?
About 600 people could fly in it.
Wow. So it's pretty large.
Yeah. It flew us to our destination.
How long were you at the LOC before you boarded the manta craft?
It wasn't long at all. That's where I signed papers, even though I was too young to legally sign legal papers. And it was explained to me that I was doing a 20-year commitment. They called it the 20 and back.
Did it look like some futuristic set off Star Trek Next Generation when you're in there? What did it look like?
Just mainly real narrow halls and regular looking doors. But it was nothing. It didn't have like Star Trek doors that closed. It wasn't really super advanced in that way.
So, if you filmed the inside of it, you could easily convince somebody that it was just a building here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. What did the hangar look like? Did the hangar look anything special?
The hangar looked very, very much like a naval facility.
Okay.
Like a mixture of a naval submarine and aircraft hangar facility.
Once you got inside the Manta, how long were you flying for?
Maybe 30, 40 minutes.
Okay. And what was the next thing that happened?
Next thing that happened was that I got to see the research vessel that I was going to be assigned to for the first time.
How long were you on this space vessel for?
I was assigned to the research vessel for 6 years.
And you said that the whole term of service was 20 years?
Yes.
Is there a reason why they only kept you on the research vessel for 6 years?
The intuitive empath skill set was needed in other programs, so I was moved through multiple programs for the remainder of the 20 years.
Could you give us an example of one of these programs?
One example would be the intruder intercept and interrogation program.
What defines an intruder?
Someone that's coming into the solar system or into the Earth's atmosphere uninvited or without permission.
And you would actually be able to apprehend these folks and ask them questions?
There was a team that was a part of that program that would do that. I was present during the interrogation as an intuitive empath.
And as you said before, you're trying to detect deception?
Right. Somewhat. Sometimes when you communicate with these other beings, it's called interfacing. Sometimes I was needed to interface, and sometimes I was there just to read them, read their emotions, and to see if they were being truthful, like a human lie detector.
Consciousness works enough the same way that you can read extraterrestrials and it works the same as if it's a human, more or less?
Definitely.
So you left the program after the 20 years of service.
Other than some follow-up work that they had me do, I pretty much ended my tenure.
On your website, you've mentioned that there are 5 factions within the secret space program. Could you quickly delineate for us what those 5 factions are and just a little bit about what each one is like that makes them different from the others?
Sure. I'll start with the oldest, which is Solar Warden. They were started back in the late 70s, 80s during the SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, I think is what that stood for, during just before and after Reagan. And then we have the ICC, the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, which is corporations all over the world that have representatives in a super board, corporate board that control the infrastructure, the secret space program infrastructure that they have out in space, which is massive. We have Dark Fleet, which is a very secretive fleet that works mainly in the outside of the solar system. We have various black ops military secret space programs that we kind of put into one group. And then we have this global Galactic League of Nations group that was somewhat of a carrot that was offered to all the other nations to have them maintain this veil of secrecy about what was going on in outer space by giving them a space program and giving them a narrative of there's certain threats or possible invasions. We need to come together and work together. And at the one facility that I visited a couple times, it looked very much like the TV show Stargate Atlantis, where you had a real laid-back environment, people walking around in jumpsuits with patches from all different countries of the world. They are almost completely outside of the solar system as well.
You mentioned the term the Alliance a lot, and I think there might be some confusion there.
There's the Earth Alliance. They have a completely different agenda. Their agenda is to basically create a new financial system and to take down the cabal and a few other things in their agenda. And then there's the Space Alliance, and it's made up of what started off with as mainly the Solar Warden faction, and then defectors from the other secret space programs. And these defectors from the other space programs left their programs with their craft and intelligence and information and joined the Secret Space Program Alliance.
What's the sequence of events that led to you becoming a whistleblower and that has led to what we're now seeing with this push towards disclosure?
I was contacted by an higher density ET group that has now been known as the Blue Avians.
And avian means bird?
Bird.
So what would these folks look like?
They're 8 feet tall. They look very bird-like. They're blue to indigo in color with feathers.
When you say very bird-like, though, are you saying they actually are birds with wings and?
No wings. They have a very human-looking torso, arms, hands.
So they're hominid.
Feet.
It's like a bird head on a human body?
Yes, but they don't have a long beak like a lot of people are trying to depict on the internet. It's kind of it's a real soft, flexible beak, and when they speak, they do a sign language or motion with one hand, and then they move their mouth around, and then they communicate telepathically.
So who are these Blue Avians? Where do they come from? Do they have an agenda?
The Blue Avians told me that them and the other beings that they are working with come from 6th through 9th density. And that...
And what is a density?
Everything around us is made up of matter, energy, thought is all made of vibration. And it comes from a different vibration or frequency.
So it's like another plane of existence.
Right.
Is it somewhere else in the galaxy or the universe, or is it around us?
It's not in a far, far away planet close to the center of the galaxy or anything like that. It's all around us. It's real close and far away at the same time.
And what is their agenda? What are they here for?
They've been here for quite some time. They've been observing, but they're here we're moving into a part of the galaxy that is a very high energetic part of the galaxy that's going to change the density of our solar system and our local star cluster. And
is that something that they've told you, or is that something that in the space program you had tangible evidence of?
We had tangible evidence of that in the space program. That's been studied for some time, but that's something they told me as well.
Okay, and if we go into a different density, what are these Blue Avians telling you will happen to human life as we know it now?
That we're going to go through a transformational experience, that is going to change us on a consciousness level, mainly.
What would that look like? Would we become more psychic, more telepathic?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories. I haven't been told that, we're going to be able to do this and that. I've heard a lot of different theories. I don't know if it's going to happen to everyone at once, or if there's some people that are more spiritually evolved that are going to start showing these signs earlier. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a guru. I really don't have all the answers.
So are these blue avians looking out for our highest good, or do they have a hidden agenda? How do we know we can trust them?
They're definitely of a positive polarity. From what I understand of sixth and higher density beings, they're not agenda-oriented as we try to project onto them. For our third, fourth density way of thinking, everything we do is agenda-oriented. It's about making money. It's about manipulating people to do or think the way we think. We can't project that onto a higher density being and say that they're going to be behaving or thinking the same way. They are here with these giant spheres to help diffuse these large tsunami energy waves that are entering our solar system. And they're diffusing this energy to where we don't get too much at one time, and to give us more time to prepare.
If they didn't use these spheres, what did they say would happen?
That a lot of people would go mad and there'd be a lot of chaos.
And when you mention these spheres, what are we looking at? People are not seeing spheres in their telescopes.
No. These are also other density, and a lot of people are thinking that these are giant spacecraft. And I'm almost certain, after my many travels in these spheres, that these spheres on a giant macro level. These little orb beings are also these giant spheres.
What are the orb beings?
They're one of the 5 beings from the Sphere Alliance that are one of the higher density of the 5 beings.
So you've actually had in-person meetings with these blue avians?
Yes. My name was mentioned as a choice as a delegate to be a part of communications between this group, the Secret Space Program Alliance Council, and also to start being speaking on their behalf with this old Super Federation Council that I had sat in as an intuitive empath support as a young teenager. I was trying to talk my way out of this delegate position. I'm not a public speaker. I have a weak voice. I was giving all of these excuses why I should not be a delegate. I was giving these excuses after I had been brought to one of these massive spheres that are out in space. And I met this blue avian named Raw Tier Air. And as I was trying to talk my way out of being a delegate, he walked up very close to me, put his hand on my forearm, and was communicating to me telepathically that I need to let go of all the negative and quit thinking about the negative. And his hand was very powder soft on my skin. It was the only time they physically touched me. And then he told me that what was important was the message.
What is their message?
Their message for humanity is that, and it's the tenet of many religions, is that we need to become more loving. We need to become forgiving of ourselves and forgiving of others, thus stopping the wheel of karma. We need to focus on becoming more service to others on a daily basis. And we need to focus on raising our vibration and our consciousness.
Well, you see a lot of people who are aggressive commenters on articles saying that the elite want to steer us into a one-world religion. How would we be able to know that this isn't just another psyop to try to get us all marching in lockstep with some new controllers?
Well, that's what they said, and what I put on my webpage is that you don't need to change your faith or your religion. You can use these beliefs are the tenets of all the major religions. I mean, this is not really anything new. The time is short. It needs to be done. We need to start focusing on, if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Buddhist, you can remain. That can remain your faith.
So they're not trying to pose as the new God.
Absolutely not. And one of the things that they have forced into my head is that I need to make sure that this does not become a cult or a religion. And I don't know the history of it, but apparently they've tried this 3 other times in the past, and each time their messages have been distorted and humans have used it for control and turned it into cults and religions.
Well, obviously we've just gotten started here. This is really fascinating information, and I just want to say on a personal level that it validates so many things I've been studying for so many years, and done as much as I can to try to put scientific evidence behind. So we got a lot more to talk about. We're just getting started, but I'm really happy that you wanted to do this and come forward, and I honor you for your courage and bravery. I know you got 2 kids. You gave up a 6-figure job for this, so this is really a major thing for you to come forward, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
All right.